Hi, everybody. Alopecia Angel here, wanting to discuss why your hair fall keeps coming back. And there are a multitude of reasons for this. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why your alopecia came back and the three things you need to know to break this cycle once and for all. The reason alopecia keeps coming back, creating vicious cycles, creating these flares, is due to many things. Number one, it could be that what you were doing in the past to control, mitigate, or even manage the first flare is not working now, is backfiring. So for example, many times when my clients come to me, they've already had a multitude of flares. They've had 1, 2, maybe even 3 flares. And it's by this second or third flare where they're just up to here. They're just really exhausted with the whole situation. It's a very painful process to have to see another bald spot, potentially go completely bald again, and then have to wait another 6 months to 8 months or longer to have the full regrowth. And it's time consuming, it's energy sucking, and it really hasn't told them specifically, what is it that needs to be fixed? What is it that really needs to be fixed for long-term success, for long-term hair growth? And this is the thing, when you have alopecia, the autoimmune alopecia, with that first bald patch, that is your call to action to do something right then and now, not to try to fix this, mitigate, or manage, or embrace, or accept. And when you fix this, you want to fix this in a way that it's proven to be fixed forever, that it's proven to be fixed for life. And in my opinion, that's the holistic and natural approach only. Medications don't do that. The superficial serum, shampoos, scalp treatments are not going to do that. The laser caps, wigs, minoxidil Rogaine is not going to do that. What you're looking for is a proven root cause identifier, and then also identifying your triggers, your blind spots, and everything else that you need to know that you don't know so that this doesn't happen again. This is exactly how I am now 10 years plus in remission. I've never had alopecia again. My alopecia was not a one-time thing. It was 4-year-long struggle. And so this is the thing. You want to have that call to action to do something quickly and ferociously about it so that it never has to play a part in your life ever again. Now, for those of you with a vicious cycle, either currently, in the past, or potentially ongoing right now, or maybe in the future, you potentially might expect one. I said earlier that what you've done in the past is not working now. And that usually is because you're focusing just on the scalp. Maybe you're upping your vitamins, or maybe you're starting to do de-stressing practices, or maybe you're starting to do one thing or another, or maybe you're going back to the cortisone shots, right? You're being faithful to those, to the things that did work in the past, which could have been the cortisone shots, which could have been the medications, which could have been something else. But as time goes on, your body is also saying thanks, but no thanks to the medications. This is where the medications backfire. They're not meant to be in our body or in our systems for long term. They're not meant to be as a continuous situation for us long term. And so understand that at some point your body's going to revolt and it will backfire. And so this is one of the reasons why your hair loss has come back potentially. Another reason could be is that you haven't gotten to the root cause. You're just masking it with all this superficial, scalp treatments, and just looking at the scalp and just focusing there, when really there's so much more to it. And so when you're not looking at the bigger picture, this is where situations can arise where, again, to me, alopecia was a life lesson, a learning lesson of sorts. And I think for my clients, it is as well. And so when they come to me, and let's say it's been their second or third flare, they come to me, and inside the Hair and Heal, this is where we're uncovering their triggers or blind spots, their root causes, and they understand exactly where they've gone wrong, what needs to change, what needs to happen for this to never come back. And this is it. Who you are at one point in your life is not who you are later on in life. So for example, I can wholeheartedly assume and even agree that we're no longer the kids that we were when we were 9 or 10 years old, or 20 or 30 or 40. And for example, for me, in my mid-40s now, I'm no longer that 30-year-old or that 25-year-old. And I may have remnants of her, but I've changed, and my lifestyle has changed, my diet has changed, everything has changed, not just for the alopecia healing, but also because there's certain things I no longer do that would impair my health or potentially even creep me more towards inching back towards a lifestyle that wouldn't be beneficial for me, for anything, either health or hair. And so this is the thing. Sometimes it's a growing pain situation. And so maybe we're not able to uncover exactly what the root causes are right here, right now, but this is what we do inside the Hair and Heal program. And so this is the other issue as to why people experience vicious cycles or flares, because they haven't identified their root causes, their triggers, their blind spots. And at the end of it, there's more work to be done. And so if you continuously see a flare, continuously see something pop up over and over and over again, it's because there's something there that we need to learn that needs to be healed and fixed once and for all. You know, you can really say this side by side and compare it to, let's say, a cold sore, right? A little herpes outbreak. And there's a deficiency there. There could be a stressful situation there. There could be a lot of things going on during that outbreak. It's acute. It lasts for only so long and then it goes away. And so, but if we're seeing patterns of this cold sore or of the flares all the time, we need to start looking at these patterns. What are these patterns telling us? What are they suggesting? Is there a connection or even a correlation to all these patterns? And so really looking deeper is what's needed, and maybe even sometimes testing is needed as well. And so testing is something that we offer worldwide. I would highly suggest and recommend that you look into functional medicine testing, gold standard testing, which for the most part, it's out of pocket. Insurance doesn't cover it. But I will say it's the most in-depth and comprehensive. Maybe once or twice is no longer working now. And this is what tells me that the body needs something more. It needs a different approach. It needs a different strategy. And potentially you have to review and evaluate everything you've been doing or not doing in order to get to that next level of healing. Because the thing is, by that second or third flare, it will come in a more aggressive manner. More than likely it does, because we've been negligent and potentially in denial of what needs to happen. What happens during this time is that you're losing large amounts of hair, and it can proceed into totalis or even universalis in a very quick way. Some clients have come to me where they've told me where it's just been a couple weeks or even months where they've gone from alopecia areata to full alopecia totalis or universalis. What has yet to be uncovered are the triggers and the root causes to the situation, not just during the acute situation, but before as well. Again, alopecia is a puzzle. And so it's my job to put these puzzle pieces together. And this is where that personalization comes in. This is where the questions come in. This is where we start uncovering all the things and we start discussing exactly how to understand your situation so we can connect the dots better. Your hair was growing back beautifully. And sometimes then you get another patch. And much like this cold sore analogy, it can come back, and maybe it's because you were teetering. You were teetering. And what I like to say sometimes is that alopecia is like the tipping point. It's the point of where your body kind of gives up and you're at the edge and it just tips over to the other side. And so maybe the healing that you experienced before was just very surface level, not getting deeper into the roots. And so what I really want to drive home here is that it's necessary to go all the way down, reevaluate that foundation, because if that foundation is still shaky, then you will consistently tip over to the other side towards a flare. Many times new clients come to me and they are in their second or third cycle. They've had enough and want to be done with this. It's affecting them too much to lose so much hair again and again. It's painful to have to go through the traumatic experience, to have to relive the first experience once again. The best way to get ahead of alopecia once and for all is to understand your personal triggers, your root causes, your blind spots, understand what's best moving forward for you. There is always going to look different for each person when you have these answers that we can uncover inside the program. Testing may or may not be necessary, but for the most part, I would highly recommend it. I prefer to test and not guess. This way we have data, pure data that shows us exactly what direction we need to take, what protocols need to happen, and we uncover everything so that we're not blindsided again and again. This way we get to all of it, we see exactly what's happening right here, right now, and we fix it at the root. This is also how you maintain control over your hair. This is how I'm in remission for over 10 years now, because I've gotten to the root causes, more than one. I've gotten to all my triggers. I know all my blind spots. And once you control that, once you understand how to navigate those situations, you're good to go. And this is how I've maintained my hair, even though I've had stressful times. I've had a pregnancy at 40. I've gone through COVID. I've moved to different countries and different homes, from the Netherlands to Japan, back to the US. It doesn't stop. But at the same time, life is always going to give us life, and it's up to us to be able to ride the wave. And so just saying it's just stress is not really looking at the bigger picture of what alopecia entails. It's never just one thing. It's never just diet. It's never just stress. It's never just one thing. In the same token, if you are healing and you've plateaued, let's say you're working with another practitioner and you've started to see some hair growth, but then you've plateaued and you haven't made any progress and it's been months, there's also more work to be done, and potentially even more testing to be done if you haven't done so already. And the thing is too, is that a lot of us want to do things without testing, and I understand, because it's another expense out of pocket. And some people do heal without testing. I'm one of them. But at the same time, sometimes testing is necessary, especially if you want to eradicate this once and for all. And you can be back into remission and live the rest of your life alopecia free. You can do this, but it's really grabbing hold of these root causes, your triggers, your blind spots, understanding your whys of how this came about for you, because all the reasons for everyone else, even if they all had the same type of hair loss, is going to look different. If full healing hasn't taken place, it means that there is more work to be done, and what you've done isn't enough. And I know sometimes that may sting a little bit, but it's just like graduating from school or getting your diploma or anything else. You can't graduate unless you finished all the coursework, all the homework, all the projects, all the tests, etc. And so in the same way, our body is telling us and letting us know when we graduate, when we don't graduate, and when and if there's more work to be done. And a lot of times there is. And so that's where more work needs to be done. You need to be working with the right practitioner in order to decipher next steps, next protocols, and where you go from here. Let me remind you that this is not your fault, and it doesn't mean you're broken. It just means that there's more work to be done, and possibly that testing as well. This is why it's important to find someone who offers gold standard testing, because I will tell you, with the regular superficial testing that's done with covered insurance, it's not enough. I tell you this because I also have my own functional medicine test, my own functional medicine doctor, and I also have my regular doctor. You know, one is great if, you know, something happens and it's very acute, and the other one is great for all the comprehensive testing. This is not your fault, and let me remind you that it's not. It just means that there's a little more work to be done, and possibly testing too. This is why it's important to find someone who offers gold standard testing. We offer it worldwide, And because it's necessary to have comprehensive data when you're trying to find root causes and to pinpoint areas for improvement. Additionally, when I was living in the Netherlands and in Japan, I didn't have access to functional medicine testing. This is why I provide it for all my clients, because it's one less thing that they have to worry about. It's one less thing that they have to think about. They already have someone that they can work with directly, proven practitioners that are on my team that I've vetted, that I've hired, and that can work with them for all their needs. But here's what your doctor probably didn't tell you about why this happens. They never explain things like this because in medical textbooks, they have not caught on. As someone who's worked with thousands of clients in over 68 countries for over 10 years now, I see patterns and I see what's needed and what's triggering the situation. No one leaves the Hair and Heal program not knowing or understanding their own unique situation, and that alone is half the battle. So hair loss relapses, triggers, flares, however you want to call them, are sometimes common, but completely preventable, because when you start understanding the patterns from the first time that you get alopecia, I would recommend you work towards not having it ever again. You close those doors to ever having it, but this also means that you need to move away from the gimmicks. You need to move away from the lotions, potions, serums, minoxidils, Rogaines, medications, because none of these will give you lifetime hair growth forever without any side effects, without any drawbacks or anything else. In order to do this, we need a comprehensive approach, not just looking at the scalp, not just looking at one thing or another, but we need to look at all the factors that focus on alopecia healing and to review all the factors for you specifically. Most people think their body failed them, but it's actually your body communicating. It's just telling us that there's more to do. Your immune system is like a smoke detector. It's doing its job, maybe too well. The difference between masking symptoms and true healing comes from having the right approach, the right strategy, the right testing. Everything needs to be right for this to happen. It's a recipe. Everything needs to be right for the recipe to come to full fruition. And this is why conventional medicine often misses this connection, because they're giving you subpar testing. They're giving you, doctors who are limited to 7 to 10 minutes of their time for you. They're limited to only prescribing medications and doing surgeries. They're not looking at diet and lifestyle. They're not looking at root causes. They're not looking beyond what they're beholden to. So let me break down exactly what's happening in your body during these flare cycles. Your immune system doesn't just turn off. It needs ongoing support. And during these flare cycles, it's like a forest fire. The inflammation is running rampant throughout your body. Think of autoimmune conditions like managing a garden, not painting a fence. Stress, inflammation, triggers, hormonal shifts can reactivate the autoimmune response. There could be other outside toxins and things that are also reactivating the immune response. The analogy, like managing diabetes, you don't stop taking care of yourself once blood sugar stabilizes. You continue to work to make sure that everything is in homeostasis and continues to be in a balanced state. Inflammation cascades through your system weeks before hair loss appears. Just like any diagnosis, the diagnosis doesn't happen overnight. It may feel and seem this way. Trust me, I've been there. But in reality, it takes weeks, months, years, maybe even decades for this to even happen. And sometimes this is exactly the pattern that you see. It's been years, maybe even 2 decades before the last cycle to the first one. Maybe it's been months. But just like a herpes outbreak, it's the same situation. It could be months, it could be weeks, it could also be decades. And so this is also something in the making. And so this is why health is not just a one and done. Health is an ongoing proactive approach so that we can heal from the inside out once and for all. The role of memory T cells and autoimmune responses also plays a part. So now this is where most people get tripped up. They miss these hidden triggers that I'm about to share. There's a lot of hidden triggers that most people miss. And it could be gut health disruptions. It could be antibiotics. It could be vaccines. It could be Botox for a lot of my women post 40 years of age. It could also be breast implants. There's a lot of blind spots when it comes to autoimmune diseases. Seasonal stress patterns on how they affect your immune system. holiday stress, maybe work deadlines, family events, school stress. Inflammation cascades that starts weeks before you see the hair loss. So this could be maybe the diet and lifestyle has been off. Maybe you have exposure to toxins, hormonal shifts that trigger also immune responses, perimenopause, menopause triggers. But I will say, even with perimenopause and menopause, you can still have this under control, and you can still turn the tides so that you can start seeing hair growth in less time. So even though you may think it's one thing, so for example, I have lots of clients who think it was the COVID or COVID shot that brought them to alopecia. And like I said, going back to my initial analogy, it could have been the one thing that tipped them over the scales, right? It tipped them over into having this autoimmune response. But in reality, there was a lot of other subcategories of things that weren't working well for them, that they were either neglecting or in denial about, or maybe unbeknownst to them were affecting them and they had no idea that there was a correlation too. So how do we actually break this cycle once and for all? So first and foremost, inside the Hair and Heal program, you need to understand your triggers, your root causes, and your blind spots. Those are 3 things that you need to understand and have the knowledge of so that you can move forward and break the cycle once and for all. That's what I've done. That's what my clients do. We break the cycle. You understand how to heal, and you're done. Once you heal, you're done. But at the same time, you're also on a prevention proactive approach, right? Just like anything. If you had herpes before, if you had alopecia before, if you had anything else before, you also want to be on this prevention proactive approach. Even my clients who've had cancer, who are in remission, and then who also get alopecia later on, they're still vigilant about their cancer, just like they're vigilant about their alopecia. That's how it should be. If we've ever been diagnosed with anything, we should be proactive in our health about this situation so that it never comes back, right? So this is the same reason of like why we don't stop brushing our teeth, even though we've gone to the dentist to have a great cleaning. We still need to brush our teeth and floss every day because it's called maintenance. We maintain the situation, just like going to the gym. You don't go to the gym once, you go to the gym on a weekly basis to create and sustain the muscles and create the strength and flexibility that we're looking for longevity. Autoimmune management requires consistent support. So how to create your personal prevention plan based on your unique triggers. You need to identify your trigger responses. You need to build buffer zones around the high-risk periods, maintain baseline support systems. You need to understand your pillars and your flare prevention, from your maintenance to your health, to your stress response, to your inflammation, and to all the other factors that we talk about inside the Hair and Heal program. Why working with somebody who understands what to do next for you is critical, because they can see through the forest and they can take you to the finish line. So what to do next? Start tracking your potential triggers in a simple journal. Start understanding and try to connect the dots. Note what's going on during all these times, and if there's any correlation or something that has something in common. Track 2 to 3 weeks before any hair changes appear, maybe even before that. If you're currently in a flare, know that this doesn't erase your previous healing. It's just that your body remembers how to heal, which is important, but at the same time, each healing cycle gets stronger when it's done correctly. And that's the key. It has to be done correctly. And this is a lot of times why people have 2, 3, 4 flares. It's because the first previous times they were using medications, gimmicks, cortisone shots, creams, or anything else that was over the counter. And so this is why it hasn't been done correctly. You want to create your community of connection, but also you want to focus on a results-driven results so that you can understand better what's happening and how to get there sooner, because literally waiting is not a strategy. So the sooner you get to the finish line, the better it is for you and for everyone around you, because there is a trickle-down effect into how you show up in life, how you approach work, friends, dating, relationships, school, partners, community, anything else in your life. Alopecia affects you mentally, physically, and emotionally on all levels. It did for me. And from what I hear from my clients, it does for them too. So the best way to get out of this is to seek help. Reach out to us to AlAPiciaAngel.com. We offer consultations. And so you can schedule a consultation today on our website. alopeciaangel.com. Subscribe and share with a loved one. I look forward to talking to you next time. Take care.